Okay, hello, I am back, and you need to stop what you're doing right now and watch Puss in Boots 2 because this movie is fantastic. And a phrase that encapsulates this entire movie is pleasantly surprising because while I was slightly interested in the movie due to its new animation style, I wasn't expecting this film to be such a great movie. This movie was directed by Joel Crawford, who also made The Croods 2, which was another movie I was pleasantly surprised by. So I guess the moral of the story is to not underestimate an animated film if he's the director. But I'm getting sidetracked. So the movie is about Puss in Boots, who in the height of his career finds out he is at his ninth and final life after recklessly wasting his last 8. So accompanied by Kitty Softpaws and from the first movie and a newcomer, therapy dog Pietro, Puss in Boots ventures on through the dark forest in a race with new characters to find the last wish from the wishing star in a last-ditch effort to obtain his 9 lives once more, all while being stalked by a supposed bounty hunter. The thing I adore most about the film is that you can feel the amount of effort put in from everyone who worked on this film, from the voice acting, animation, and the character writing. Every voice actor did a superb job. I especially love Papa Bear's voice, Ray Winstone's delivery of the character. No specific reason, I just really like him and I don't know why. And Wagner Moura's portrayal of Wolf, which I want to save him for later when I talk about the other characters. Even though the plot is simple and you basically know what's going to happen by the end of the movie with Puss in Boots not getting his 9 lives back, it allows the movie to focus more on the characters and their actions guided by their motivations, like Puss in Boots reflecting on his past lives and mistakes and decides to stop running from his fears and to fight for his last life with everything he has, or Kitty Softpaws slowly trusting in others again, and Goldilocks wanting to use a wish to get a real family but realizing she already has one in the 3 bears. Pietro being so positive and upbeat about everything to the point where he's blissfully ignorant about the injustices he suffered in his life is basically a core factor in the development of the former Affirmation 3. And Big Jack Horner, who I love, is just unsympathetically evil. And John Mulaney's voice acting combined with the scenes where his henchman died gruesomely because he just didn't care just is so funny to me. Finally, we get to the wolf, who is later revealed to be a personification of death itself, and he's a terrifying villain, as in the scenes he appears out of nowhere along with his ominous whistling sound, which gives the atmosphere a sense of dread as he's hunting Puss for irresponsible usage of his 9 lives. And when he first fights Puss, the screen just goes red when he lands an attack that makes Puss bleed, instilling fear in us, the audience, and Puss, as he never had to acknowledge his own mortality before now. This fear he instills with his presence, combined with his voice, his crescent moon blades, and serving as the biggest consequences to Puss's irresponsibility with his lives, make him a great character and just an imposing villain. This film also has a masterclass of animation. Everything in this movie is so colorful and really gives off the world's storybook fairy tale feel. The action scenes are dynamic and it's just a spectacle because the color makes everything pop out even more. And you can tell how much Spider-Verse influenced this film, as he also utilized the framework in creative ways. So let's once again thank Phil Lord and Chris Miller for their brilliance. Thanks. Most of the main plot takes place in the dark forest, and it's used in a really interesting way to flesh out all the characters in the movie with its time frame, by the dark forest terrain changing depending on who's holding the map to the wishing star, and serves as a sort of a deep dive into the characters, like when Kitty Softpaw's terrain reflects her distrust in others, causing her loneliness, or Puss's map reflecting the lost lives in his carelessness. I love how it's cleverly utilized in fights. For example, when someone looks at a map during an action scene, it breaks up the area around, causing groups to split up or allows one group to get away from another. I was pleasantly surprised by this movie's humor. I did not expect these characters to swear in this way. My mouth was honestly agape during one scene with Pietro, and a lot of the movie was just hilariously brutal, so I enjoyed the humor a ton. I love the lessons in the movie as Puss, Kitty, Softpaws, and Goldie reject the wish as each already has the thing they want the most, which is simple but executed wonderfully and increases the love I already have for this movie. I'll reiterate this once again, but this movie encapsulates what it means to be pleasantly surprised. The characters are pleasantly surprising, the action's pleasantly surprising, the humor's pleasantly surprising, the villains are pleasantly surprising. This entire movie is pleasantly amazing. And I implore you to go to a movie theater right now and watch this film, because by the time I'm making this review, it's only made $80.9 million, and I really want this movie to do well because one, it deserves it, and two, I'm afraid that if it fails, DreamWorks is going to believe that their direction is the wrong one to take, and fortunately, it's been getting good reviews, but I'm still anxious because you never know with corporations like these. This movie was a nice way to end 2022 for me. Throughout 2022, I was kind of in a rut of how some projects I was interested in turned out, with some in the beginning were kind of touch and go in quality, but became more consistent in the end, while on the other hand of the spectrum, others were total masterclasses in writing until it fumbled up its climax, watering down the entire season for me, and others which just did not live up to its potential. So this film was just what the doctor ordered, and going into 2023, it looks to be an interesting year with, Ash Ketchum not even being the Pokemon protagonist anymore, Spider-Verse 2 coming out, and many more anticipated releases. It gives me hope that this coming year is going to be a great year, so thank you, Puss in Boots, you gave me hope, and I unironically gives this a 10 out of 10. Absolute masterclass. So with that, I'm set. I'm the Muffin Man. Thank you for listening, and always drink your Wilkins coffee.
Nothing beats Wilkins.